Buddy, just taking a little moment here. Um, okay. Hey, happy July 16th. I like July 16th because it's the day after July 15th. So what's been going on in the world? Are we going to get to that? I have a lot going on because I have a presentation at the library this coming week about the archives of Bayard Rustin. So that's pretty exciting. Um, and this could be somewhat of a preview. I actually thought about like bringing my computer and like reading off the whole presentation. One of these days we're gonna have a whole screen so we can do everything. But
Right, yes.
yes, not yet. Um, but we're gonna get to the world first because the world keeps happening, as we know. So, okay, I've been listening to a documentary podcast about. Sorry, I'm getting used to this new sound setup. Um, about the efforts to rebuild antiquities in Mosul in Iraq that were destroyed by ISIS. And one of the things that ISIS did, they have a real is destroy the artwork and artifacts, and the artifacts in Iraq were some of the oldest in the world, and they had this real twisted version of Islam. Islam actually does prohibit graven images, but before ISIS, people were not going up and smashing statues, and the Taliban did the same thing in Afghanistan. It's part of this just really twisted ideology. I think it's what regimes like that do because they want to take away the history of what happened before them and make it seem like it was always that way as it was under the regime. Actually, that's kind of what they did in the Handmaid's Tale, which is a contemporary feeling version of a dystopian world where the United States has been taken over by people that take over women's fertility, and people get punished for talking about the time before. And so I think that that's why organizations like ISIL do what they do. So this is a group of women archaeologists from Iraq that trained in Great Britain, and they separated the archaeologists by gender. However, that was just a matter of cultural tradition. In ISIS, all the women that had careers had to leave. They shut down they just went in, and to all the businesses and every place where women were working and doing things and setting them home, they required women to be entirely covered up in burqas, and a lot of women cover their heads, and that's a whole different thing for them than being ordered to cover up entirely. So one of the things the women were saying now that ISIS is gone is that people wear really bright colored headscarves, and that there's this aura of celebration. But there's still a whole lot of destruction, and so one of the things they were talking about is what it would take to rebuild these sculptures, and they're just saying it's not going to happen. There is not the money for it, and what they could be doing instead was digging for more artifacts. So I think that's kind of cool. Or I hope that they'll be able to do that, because these women have been denied their careers and gone through hell and terror, and so they should get to go dig for, go start something new, because you can't rebuild 5,000-year-old statues. So that is, that's just one of the things that's interesting to me. And the training was going on in the British Museum, and since the Brits have so much of everybody's artifacts there anyway, the Iraqi archaeologists were photographing them and sort of modeling, like learning how to work with them with the stuff that was already there. So that was kind of ideal. Okay, and so there's news out of DR Congo. Nothing that good. The health workers have launched an urgent measles vaccination campaign in Ebola-hit regimes. So almost 2,000 people have died of measles, and 2/3 of them are children under 5, and even more people have died of measles in DR Congo than have died in Ebola. So I'm sending, as always, my prayers in regards to everybody there, but especially the healthcare workers who are really, really risking their lives. So, other news in Congo is Bosco Ntaganda, who's known as the Terminator. You remember him, right, Ro?
Yeah.
Yeah. Roselle remembers all that stuff. Stuff like that. So he has been found guilty of war crimes at the International Criminal Court. And so we've talked about his case for a while. It was the first case where somebody was prosecuted, where somebody has been found guilty of using rape as a weapon of war. So that was historical, and it's only the International Criminal Court has been around since 2002, and he's only the 4th person convicted by the ICC, and he is he's from a province called Ituri in DR Congo, and 2 other people there's only been 4 people convicted by the ICC, Ntaganda, and Thomas Lubanga and Germaine Katanga. So it looks like everybody is getting, so basically it looks like, 75% of convictions are from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So it's said that this is going to be good for the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, because she hasn't been able to convict many people, and she's been criticized because she dropped charges of crimes against humanity against President Kenyatta, against Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, and then last year, appeals courts, the judge overturned a war crimes conviction for Jean-Pierre Bemba, who, as we know, returned to DR Congo and ran for office. And the former president of Ivory Coast, Laurent Gbagbo, were acquitted of crimes against humanity. And then Burundi and the Philippines have quit the court because their leaders are being investigated, and as we know, the United States is not a member of the International Criminal Court, particularly because they would like to go after the United States for crimes against humanity in Vietnam. But they also, the International Criminal Court was also investigating allegations of war crimes in Afghanistan. And so the United States revoked the visa of Ms. Bensouda, of the chief investigator. She was just trying. They won't even let her come to America, even though the ICC. I mean, the United States isn't part of the ICC, so it's not like they could do anything. But shit. Since our president doesn't, since our president doesn't like anybody that. Doesn't like anybody, but it's trying not to let anybody into the United States. So I guess a war crimes prosecutor is not going to be high up in his. He probably doesn't like war crimes prosecutors much more than he likes anybody. Okay, so he is going to. So Ntaganda is going to appeal, and so we don't know what his sentence is. And we've talked about this before. Lubanga and Katanga got like pretty light sentences, like 10 years or something. And I think for crimes against humanity, you should be locked up for life.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's news from Max and Sarah. Here we go. Okay, news from Saudi Arabia. President Trump's great friends over there. Okay, so news about Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj was going to go do a show in Saudi Arabia, which I think is great. It was I completely believe that artists and musicians and creative people should go everywhere they want to go and connect through music with people. And it would be pretty cool for people in Saudi Arabia to see like some, would you call Nicki Minaj uninhibited? Whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So she was gonna go do a festival, and then she got a whole lot of criticism because of the government of Saudi Arabia, and so she decided not to go. And it's like, that's bullshit. The government, I just have to say this every time, the government doesn't care if you don't come. All you're doing is depriving your fans. And Saudi Arabia has been relaxing their cultural anything recently. They only just started to allow concerts at all recently. So I don't know. Get somebody over. Somebody should go over there. Yeah. Uninhibited is a way to do it. I mean, it's one thing when they go and like perform directly for the oligarchs. I mean, that's bad. But this was like a public music festival. So. Okay, Saudi Arabia has a guardianship law, and women can't leave the country without getting permission from a male relative. But they're relaxing that. That law might be getting negated. And
so what would happen if they did do it? They go to jail if they come back?
Well, they wouldn't be allowed out.
Oh,
they can't leave. Well, yeah, I mean, they probably would get thrown in jail if they tried to leave. But yeah, I mean,
gotcha.
They can't get a passport or a visa or anything without permission from a male relative. Saudi women still need, so they're going to be like, man, I sure want to get the fuck out. Saudi women still need the permission of a male relative to make major life decisions, including marriages, divorce, and obtaining a passport. Well, okay, so I guess they need a man to get the passport. So that's still a problem as far as leaving the country. But I guess if they've already gotten a passport, then they can leave the country without getting permission for that too. And a royal decree ended the kingdom's long-standing ban on women driving. So yeah, women got to be allowed to drive in 2018, and women no longer need their guardian's permission to get a job, enroll in university, or undergo surgery. However, the move toward greater freedom for women has been accompanied by a crackdown on dozens of women's rights activists, many of whom remain in prison where their families allege they have been tortured. It's kind of what happens a lot when, I don't know, I mean, I think a lot of like repressive governments, they'll take like maybe like 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or they do a lot of that, like, oh wow, we're like letting women do this, but meanwhile, like some of the women who have been fighting for some of these changes to happen are still locked up. So it's bad. That's just really bad. I was watching a debate. There's a woman named Mona El-Tawawi who's an Egyptian. She's of Egyptian descent. I think she lives in the U.S. now, and is a real strong Muslim feminist and gets a lot of. She's just real outspoken and gets a lot of threats. And she's one of these ones like, she is. She sure is. And she's one of the ones where like people do a lot of like now you can really like superimpose heads on porno. So people do a lot of like sending her family like porn tapes with her head on it. Yeah. So I was watching a debate between her, because we were talking about about France banning women from wearing bikinis and bikinis. Yeah. Roselle had to go look them up. He thought I was like talking about like something nasty, but bikini porn. So, but it's just fucked up to me, because you're gonna have a male minister of culture saying like, well, in our country we don't allow women to be oppressed. Like, there's something wrong with that. And so I was watching a debate between Mona El-Tawawi and another Muslim woman who lives in the U.S. who totally covers, like, she I guess the burqa. There's a burqa and there's a niqab, and I think that one of them is the ones where they're totally covered and they just have this mesh thing over their eyes. That's one of them, and then there's ones where you can just see their eyes, like the veil part covers their nose and goes like that. So this was a debate sort of between Mona El-Tawawi and this woman who lives, I forget her name, but she lives in Texas, and she has a degree in mechanical engineering, and she started totally covering herself like that after 9/11 to sort of make a statement. Burqa, thank you, Max, to make a statement, to like be real public about being a Muslim. But one of the things she was saying was, she worked she was a mechanical engineer. She worked in real male environments and had to put up with a lot of harassment, and like now she's like treated with respect and all that. Like yeah, man, because they're probably like scared shitless that they'll get their throats cut at the. But man, I just you shouldn't need to like put a total bag over your head in order to be respected. And
but you gotta understand, they've been doing that for centuries.
Not so much. Like in Afghanistan was a very modern, progressive place in the 70s. Up in like nobody was walking around all covered up like that. And so was Iraq. Iraq was so was Iran. It was very modern and urban. People didn't have to do all that stuff. I mean, they were still Muslim, but they didn't have to be totally hardcore like that. And certainly, I mean, we with what we've been talking about with Iraq, you went from like women were like forced to put those total things all over their heads and over their entire bodies. So there's just disagreement about whether that's what is said in the Quran, and there's people that say that one of the hijab, that's like just the head covering, that just means modesty. That's what I was reading about, or like listening to an interview with a Muslim woman, and that applies to men too. I mean, everybody's supposed to be sort of covered. So, I mean, it's like a swing back. I mean, a lot of places have become more conservative. I mean, we have the Republican Party didn't used to be hardcore right wing like it is now. We have all of those people that have come out, and so and then we have Orban, and we have the right wing in the state of Israel. There's there's these hardcore religious people in the state of Israel that try and impose their way of doing things on everyone else. So that's kind of tricky, but it is not helped by not allowing women to dress however the fuck they want to go swimming. It's great that they, they should be able to, because if they're not allowed, it's not like they're going to be saying like, oh, okay, I can't wear my bikini, so I'm going to go buy myself a cute little new little two-piece and go. Like, no, it just means they won't go swimming. So that's messed up, and it just needs to happen in other ways.
Right.
Okay, so that was the ICC, and okay, so one of the things, I was listening to some interviews with some of the humanitarians that are saving people, that are saving refugees from the boats, and facing, like, some of them are facing jail time, because what happens is because these humanitarian people, they are rescuing refugees from human traffickers, but now what the authorities are doing is charging them with human trafficking,
right? Because
they have people in their boat who they're just trying to get to safety. So, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, so there's people in the United States who are facing trouble for helping out migrants and giving people water. So that's pretty scary. But one of them was one of the guys I was listening to being interviewed was this young Irish guy that was a diver, and so he decided to go help, to go contribute. Wow, that is pretty cool.
Right.
You have to be kind of like, I think for a lot of these positions, you have to be young, and you have to be young and not have too many responsibilities,
right.
Because
True.
Yeah. So okay, I think we're doing good. We are gonna take a break and be right back in a little bit. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening. We'll be right back.